Welcome back. We previously saw how we can alter or add elements to a list. Now let's take a look at how we can go about removing elements from a list. We'll start by defining a list, and we'll work with a list colors. And let's populate it with some colors of our choice. So let's do red, we'll do blue, we'll do green, let's do yellow, and I'm going to add another blue just for fun. So now that we've got our list, this is great. Now, in order to remove elements from a list, we're going to look at two different methods. The first being .remove. The remove method takes one argument, the element name that you wish to remove. So in our list, and let's verify that this list is correct. Let's start by just printing the list. So we'll say print colors. And if I look, I should get 5 elements, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like we typed it out. Now, let's remove the element yellow from this list. So we're going to call the list name colors and then a list method. And we're going to type .remove. So we're calling the remove method for lists. Now, the remove method takes one argument, the element's name that you wish to remove. We wish to remove yellow. So I need to pass it a string yellow here. This should essentially remove that color. And so now if I print my list colors and I run this, we see that yellow is gone and blue has shifted down one index. So it's no longer at index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but is instead at index 3. Very good. Now, be careful using the .remove method, because if you reference an element that's not inside your list, you'll get an error. So for instance, if I call colors.remove, and then let's try to remove the color brown, I'm going to get an error. And see, the error occurs on line 9. It's a value error. It says list.remove x. This x is not in the list. So it's saying that what I've put in as an argument to the remove method doesn't actually exist in the list, right? And we know that brown is not one of our colors here. So let's get rid of this. Let's also note that if there's more than one instance of an element in your list, the remove method will only remove one of those instances. So if you look here, right, we've got blue twice in our list. So let's see what happens if I call colors.remove and we remove blue. So now if I print my list, you can see I've only removed one of these values. It looks like I'm removing the color blue at index 1 right here. And so we still have this element blue at the end of my list. So it's only going to remove it once. So we would actually have to call it again, colors.remove blue. And now if I look, all of the instances of the color blue should be gone from that list. All right, and they are. So just be aware of that, the remove method only will remove one instance of an element at a time. Now, using .remove, the actual element is removed from the list, and we no longer have that information stored, right? I can't maybe use it. It's gone forever. Another method, the .pop method, allows us to remove an element from a list, but it returns that element so we can capture it in a variable and use it later on. The .pop method, when used with no arguments, always pops off the last element in the list. So for instance, we've got our list colors. Actually, let me make a new list. We'll say new colors. We'll work with a new list. New colors equals, let's do red, let's do green, let's do brown, and let's do orange. Let's give orange some love. And so if I want to make, let's say I want to remove this last element, and I want to print a message about that last element. So I'm going to say, make a variable removed color equals new colors dot pop. And so what this pop method is going to do, if I don't pass an argument, it's going to remove the last element of the list and return it, and we store it in the variable new color. And so I can now maybe print a message, removing the color, and we'll print our variable name. And so if we run this, It says removing the color orange. And this is great because now I have that color stored in a variable and I can continue to work with it later on in my program. Now, if we pass the pop method an argument, it can actually take an optional argument of an index. And when we do that, we're going to remove a value at the specified index. So let's say we want to remove green right here. So what we can do is we can say, okay, we'll call this a bad color. This is a bad color, and we'll set it equal to new colors.pop. And I'm going to pass it an index. I want to say remove, don't remove the last color. Let's remove what's at index 1. And now let's print a message. A bad color is, and let's add to this our variable bad color. And so what we've done now is we've popped off not the last color in the list, but what we've done is we've popped off the color at a specific index, and we've saved it to use later on. Now, this is really great in terms of two list methods, the remove method and the pop method. One is particularly useful if you know the name of the element that you want to get rid of, the remove method. Another is particularly useful if you know the index of the element that you want to get rid of, the pop method. We can also use a delete statement to remove an element from a list if we know the index of the element that we want to remove. So for instance, if let's just say I print colors right now, what do we got left in this list? I've got red and green. So let's say I want to delete, I'll use the delete statement, del, and let's just get rid of what's at index 0. And so now if I print colors, I should have gotten rid of the element red. It's just gone. And that's exactly what happens, right? And so the only thing left here is green, and green has moved from index 1 down to index 0, the first element in our list. Lastly, before we maybe move on from lists here, let's discuss that we can also start with a blank list and then populate it with user input. And this is going to be really powerful as we start to build more dynamic programs. So let's make a blank list and let's call it fruits, because who doesn't love fruit? And let's call fruits.append. And we're going to add an input statement here, and we're going to say enter a fruit. And let's do this. Let's do this a few times. So let's build our list. So copy, paste, paste. And then let's print our fruits. So if I run this now, it looks like we're going to be asked to enter a fruit. I love apples, I love oranges, and I love pears. And so now, based off that user input, we have built this list dynamically that we can then use later on in a program. So this is a great overview of how we can remove elements from a list using the remove method, the pop method, or a delete statement. And lastly, how we can build a list using user input. Excellent, excellent job.